So we all want to be more consistent and hopefully consistently good. Well, there's lots of different ways to become a more consistent golfer, but in this video I'm going to share what I believe to be the 3 key factors in helping the everyday golfer just like you hit more repeatable and more consistent golf shots. So guys, let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Danny Malcolm and I'm super excited to share this video with you today. It's all about the 3 keys to becoming more consistent with your golf. And it's probably not the 3 things that you might think it would be. Firstly, just have a look at the best players in the world. Lots of different ways to get the job done. Lots of different styles of swings. Some more textbook than others, whatever more textbook means. So there's lots of different ways to get it done. Firstly, it's important to know that. But what they do all have fairly in common is very, very good impact conditions relative to the shot that each player is trying to hit. So that's what they get a lot more consistent than the everyday golfer. And I'm going to share the 3 key things today that's going to help you become more consistent. Firstly, what do you think that might be? Well, could it be a better backswing position or a more textbook backswing position? Nope. Could it be a better top of the backswing position? Nope. Could it be keeping your head still? Nope. Well, it's actually none of those. And just on a side note, we shouldn't really be trying to swing it the perfect way anyway. I made that mistake as a junior, and just knowing that our bodies are so different, we're built differently, we move differently, we've got different injuries and so on. So we should be trying to swing the best that we can physically swing in the most efficient way. And that's a philosophy that I take into all of my coaching. Now back to the big 3, or the most 3 key points to more consistent golf. I'm going to touch on to the first one, and that is impact location. So whereabouts on the face are you striking the ball? And it sounds so kind of simple, but it's something that we often overlook as a player. But that's such a huge influence on where the ball goes. So whenever you're practicing, just be sure to make a note of where you're hitting. So you can use things like strike spray or the Dr. Scholl's shoe spray, things like that, and just make a spray on your face and hit some shots and just see where you're hitting it. Because with an iron, for example, if you're hitting it out the toe, then oftentimes that club's going to twist, it's going to open your face, and the ball's probably going to go to the right. It's not going to be as powerful a shot, not as much energy transferred to the ball. Vice versa, if it's out the heel, often you might even get a shank where it can go in any which direction, and that's when you hit it out of the hosel here. You might hit it low, you might hit it high, all things that are going to affect your distance and direction. We're trying to hit about in that 4th or 5th groove on the club face with your irons to get the maximum out of it. And when it comes to the driver, strike location is even more important, because if we were to hit it out of the toe with the driver, what will happen is we get what we call gear effect. So I might do a separate video of that in the future, but essentially if you hit the ball out the toe, all else being equal, the ball is actually going to create hook spin and curve to the left or right of the golfer. Out the heel, it's going to create slice spin. High in the face, it's going to launch high with less spin. Low on the face, it's going to launch lower with more spin. And again, that's all going to affect distance, direction. So hugely important to monitor this with your driver. I'm just going to hit one now and see if I can get relatively close to the face. And the biggest way to more distance as well, if you're looking for distance, is trying to get that thing out of the center or just above the center. So let's have a go here. Not bad. Not bad there. So that was slightly toe side, and that's not a bad thing for me. I tend to leak some right, so that's going to help straighten up some of my shots. So when you're practicing, be sure to get that feedback to know where you're hitting it. If you haven't got TrackMan, which gives you that option to view where you're striking it, then strike spray or something similar is a great tool. And then you can start to develop the skill that you need to move it away from, if you're hitting it out of the heel, move it more towards the center or towards the toe. If you're hitting it out of the toe, more towards the center or the heel. So that's number 1. Huge influence on where your shots are going. If you can be more consistent with that, you're going to be a more consistent golfer. Part number 2 is club path. So where your club swings relative to your target is hugely important as well. So are you a player that swings pretty neutral with your club path, so on a pretty natural arc or neutral arc around through impact? Are you a player that comes inside to out, or are you a player that comes outside to in? Now, all those three styles of swings are going to have an influence on where your ball starts, on the shape of the shot, and so on. So just noting what is your tendency there. And number three, which I believe is king, is the club face. So where is your club face aiming at impact? The club face is king is often the term that I use with my clients, and it's so true because it has such a big influence on where the ball starts and goes. So even if you've got a good consistent impact location, you've got a good club path, if that club face is aiming not where you want it to go at impact, it's going to have about 80% influence on where the ball goes. So it's super important that you really practice club face control to become a more consistent golfer. So I've actually done a separate video on this called club face control, but how I like to practice that, assuming you've got good fundamentals and you've got good setup, grip, etc., that's matching the type of shot you're trying to hit and your body type as well. A good way you can practice that is purposely trying to hit some shots super left. So if you're on a driving range, what do you need to do with a normal setup to actually make that club face close or get it shut? Then you can go to the other extreme. What do you need to do to get that club face open, and then go back to shut but a little less shut, then open, then shut, then open, and you're going to try and calibrate it so you're getting somewhere back to square. So we're not actually practicing all the time just to get that club face dead square at impact, because when you're on the golf course, the reality is we're going to hit some wayward and we need to know how to react, and you need to develop that skill to be able to correct it on the next shot or on the next hole. And that comes true with also where you're striking it on the face as well and your club path. So these three key factors in the swing, if you can really not master these, but if you can become a highly skilled at understanding what each of one of these causes, and you can performance manage basically and correct your own game when you're playing. So this drill here is great. I like to encourage you practicing this, not at full speed. Just dial this back to about 60-70% of your full speed while you're practicing it. So I'm going to try and hit one purposely left here, normal setup, but I'm going to just close that face a long way left of those bunkers there, which that definitely has done so, and you can see that there. Then I'll hit another, and I'll be, okay, well, can I hit one to the right-hand side of the range? Same setup, but I'm just going to see if I can open that face just with skill at impact. And you see that's gone way out there, way right, beautiful. And now I'm going to go left again, but not quite as left, still about 60% speed. And that's just gone not quite as left as that previous one before. And then I'll dial it back to the right and keep going a few times, almost like a sprinkler. And then you're going to bring it back into the center. So that gives you the skill then when you're on a golf course and you might hit one way right, but you felt like you struck it well out of the middle, just had that face open. Then on the next hole you could go, okay, well, I need to feel a bit more of what it was like to do that, to then straighten it up for the next shot. So it's super important ideas that I encourage the everyday golfer, and no matter what level you're at, to practice and become better at, to become more consistent. And just in my time as well, I've found that out of those three key factors, club path is the easiest, I believe, to be more consistent in, whether that's a slightly out to in path, whether it's slightly in to out, or if you're fairly neutral path. Impact location is the next easiest or most difficult, whichever way you look at it, in terms of developing that skill. So with feedback, strike, spray, can you improve the consistency of your strike location? And then number three, and by far the most difficult, no matter what level we're at, is developing good control of the club face, which is king and probably probably the most important factor on where your ball's going to start, assuming you've got a relatively good strike as well. So that's the hardest one to practice, which is why I encourage people to do it more often, and don't just stand there on the range try and hit perfectly straight shots each and every time, because I also believe that having a trusted or more trusted shot shape is more beneficial for the everyday golfer. That might mean you might be a player that naturally hits it a little bit left to right. You might be a player that hits it a little bit more right to left. I prefer that option of finding one that you could stand there when you're under a bit of pressure in a competition. You could stand there and know you've got a rough idea of what the shape might be, rather than trying to hit it dead straight and not knowing it could, either shot could kind of come out, it could go big left or it could go big right. So I do encourage you to kind of find a club path that and a club face that matches your tendencies. So go and find a good coach or good online coach who can help you find yours, and then obviously working on that strike location and impact is huge as well. So I hope you enjoyed that video there, guys. That's my key, I guess, coaching ideas and the things I always look out for first when I'm coaching here in person or online. And I encourage you to look out for that yourself. There's obviously lots of other things happening in the swing, but they are the 3 keys that are going to help you become a more consistent golfer. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.